Jennifer Langen-Richson-Rolling stated in her report, Rates of Bidirectional versus Unidirectional Intimate Partner Violence, a Comprehensive Review, published in Partner Abuse, Volume 3, Number 2, 2012, that 58% of violent relationships are bidirectional and 28% are unidirectional, perpetrated by women against their partners, leaving only 14% of domestic violence as the unidirectional male-on-female partner violence feminists portray as the majority. Not only do women engage in domestic violence against men, the CDC's National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence surveys have found that a higher percentage of women-only relationships than heterosexual relationships are violent. According to the CDC's 2010 NISVS, the lifetime prevalence of rape, physical violence, and/or stalking by an intimate partner was 43% of lesbians versus 35% of heterosexual women and only 26% for gay men. Approximately 1 in 3 lesbian women versus 1 in 4 heterosexual women reported at least one form of severe physical violence from an intimate partner, versus approximately 1 in 6 gay men. If men were naturally more violent than women, as you say, the most violence per capita would be found in relationships with 2 men, not those with 2 women. Women are also statistically more likely to be violent than men toward their children. Health Department data shows women as the majority of perpetrators of child abuse during the last decade, with a decline in their percentage concurrent with a decline in overall perpetration, as paternal custody has slowly increased during that time. Why does all of this matter? I'll bet if you took the time to watch this, you're sitting there thinking, but I agree with you that men deserve equal remedy. Why are the numbers important if I say men deserve getting help out of abusive relationships? I have 3 answers for this. First, it's the truth, and the truth matters, even if confronting it is uncomfortable. Second, feminist lobbying groups which have established themselves as expert advisors to legislative and other policy-making bodies have used the claim that men rarely experience domestic violence, and when they do it's usually not serious, to deny men equal assistance. They made that argument in 1978 when they lobbied Congress for domestic violence law. The Family Violence Prevention and Services Act of 1984 provided funds to states for programs to prevent family violence and provide shelter to family members attempting to escape it, but didn't give feminists the gender-specific stipulations they wanted. They spent the next 10 years trying to get Congress to make the law gender-specific on the basis of their claim that women are the vast majority of victims and deserve the lion's share of funding. Lobbying for the Violence Against Women Act of 1994 included the same claims made in 1978 and the same ones you make in your video, despite the existence of information contradicting them. Feminist lobbyists succeeded in persuading Congress to gender the language of the law to follow the Duluth model, which presumes family violence to be mainly male perpetrated and female experienced, so that the vast majority of shelters would be women only. They also succeeded in persuading Congress to create a funding incentive for mandatory arrest, prosecution, conviction, sentencing, and sentence enforcement policies, guaranteeing an accusation-to-prison pipeline that feeds on men involved in family conflicts, whether they're the actual primary aggressor or not. They also persuaded Congress to fund research based on traffic through these women-only shelters, guaranteeing the production of a body of bias-created evidence to support their claims that family violence is gendered. You can't very well get balanced evidence if you are only looking at women's experiences. Victims should not be denied either assistance in recovery or justice merely because of their gender or because of the gender of their perpetrator. But male victims are, especially when victimized by women, and a large part of the reason is that feminists have worked so hard to marginalize them. And third, if you need a self-serving reason, that would be because reducing female violence would result in an overall reduction in domestic violence from both sexes, as a large percentage of two-way violence involves the female partner assaulting and emotionally abusing the male partner until he snaps and reacts violently. Girls don't grow up with the same admonition to refrain from hitting the opposite sex that boys are given. For them, hitting girls is taboo. For girls, it's not only accepted, it's widely portrayed in television and movies as normal behavior. That mirrors prevailing social attitudes. When a man hits a woman, the standard response of others is to rush to her aid. When a woman hits a man, the standard response is to wonder what he did to deserve it. With such pervasive attitudes of acceptance in our society, why wouldn't women hit the opposite sex more than men do? Do you think that women are just naturally more ethical and caring because of their gender? If you do, why are you unable to recognize the sexism inherent in that belief? If women had the same taboo against hitting men that men have against hitting women, and it was enforced with the same level of social shaming and legal ramifications, female-initiated partner abuse would be greatly reduced. And it doesn't matter if you think it's more immoral for a man to hit a woman than for a woman to hit a man. The practical result is unchanged by the gender bias of your morals. But let's explore for a moment whether, if it were affected, your morals would change the importance of acknowledging and addressing female-initiated partner violence. You seem to think women who initiate are exempt from defensive violence, and to consider it to be domestic violence when the defender is a man, even though it's commonly asserted by domestic violence victims' advocates when discussing female victims that self-defense should not be considered abuse, even if she escalates the violence. In fact, that's the entire basis for the use of battered women syndrome as a defense in assault and murder cases. The reality is that female violence is at least as provocative as male violence, and in some cases more. When it involves a pattern of repeated, frequent, persistent, or enduring violence accompanied by emotional abuse and aggressive baiting, such as getting right up in the guy's face and refusing to allow him to disengage, it is shocking and extremely distressing, and can cause the same fight or flight response a woman experiences in response to BOO! See, reflexes aren't necessarily optional. To assume a man can just shut off that response because the willfully aggressive person eliciting it is female is not just gender biased, it's a heartless attitude toward men, especially if you're using that assumption as the basis for claiming it's not important to acknowledge that deliberately acting to elicit such a response from your partner is abusive.